Hello, and welcome to the ISD is for Me podcast. I am your host, James Ezekiel, and today we will continue our journey through the 6 principles of e-learning by Ruth Clark. Last week we looked at the redundancy principle, which teaches that explaining graphics with audio and redundant text can hurt learning. Although it may seem like a good idea to partner text, audio, and pictures representing the text, however, research shows that this can actually be an overload of information and hurt learning. Following this week's podcast, you will be able to do the following. You will be able to define the multimedia principle, identify the multimedia principle, and understand the psychology behind the principle. Have you ever been in a meeting where the presenter only had text in their PowerPoint and all the presenter did was read the text on the PowerPoint slide? Do you remember falling asleep or at least wanting to fall asleep? I know I have. This type of presentation is extremely boring, and worse, most don't retain the information the presenter is trying to teach or convey. So what exactly is the multimedia principle? The multimedia principle states that adding graphics to words can improve learning. This concept is very elementary. As a matter of fact, when teaching letters to kindergartners, my wife uses flashcards with the letter and a picture of a word that begins with that letter. In the article, Understanding Statistics of Visual Learners, it states that approximately 65% of the population are visual learners. In addition to that, the brain processes visual information 60,000 times faster than text. This information provides some insight into why adding pictures to text in a presentation will cause learners to grasp the information quickly and be more likely to retain the information because of the associated picture. The psychology behind the principle. Learning occurs by encoding of new information in permanent memory called long-term memory. According to a theory called dual encoding, content communicated with text and graphics sends two codes, a verbal code and a visual code. Having two opportunities for encoding into long-term memory increases learning. Now, for next week, I want you to pay attention to how many signs you see with only text and no picture. I want you to use the chart in the course library on Canvas to log the number of signs you see, and we will discuss it on our webinar next Thursday. Because I have turned on the switch in your mind to pay attention to the signs with no picture, I wonder how many signs you will actually find with only text. I'm interested to see what happens in this experiment. Now, I've included a couple of slides for you to test your knowledge on the multimedia principle. And additionally, for those who complete the assignment of looking at the signs, I will actually count it as an extra test grade. Now, following our webinar on next week, you will be completing a presentation where you will have to demonstrate understanding of all 6 principles of e-learning. But for now, you should be able to define the multimedia principle, identify it, and understand the psychology behind the principle. So that concludes our ISD is for Me podcast on the multimedia principle. I look forward to seeing you next week.